Good morning or afternoon, Year 4, and welcome to a new week and hopefully lots of new opportunities to learn some wonderful bits, starting off with your reading comprehension task. So your what today is I can answer a set of questions on a set of speeches. Lovely repetition there, Mr. Bull. And we're doing this so we can expose ourselves to different types of text. We haven't really covered speech much yet in Year 4, and to build on our growing confidence when it comes to breaking down text to answer questions. I have noticed a lot of you are getting better at realising what we need to be looking at in the text when we're answering questions, so we're going to really build on that. However, to start us off, we're going to be looking at famous persuasive speeches from some real big figures in history to give us ideas for our persuasive speech from Boudica, because at the end of this week, you guys are going to become Boudica and convince your warriors to join up and fight against the Roman soldiers. So, your first task. On the daily plan today, we have got the Barack Obama speech PDF. Please open that up and read it out loud. And once you've done this, I want you to come down to the bottom of the page and look at this link here. I want you to click on that link and have a look at that video. Some of you probably have already encountered it before. Once you've done that, come back again and read through Barack Obama's speech again, but this time learning the lessons you've learned on that and trying to add a little bit more expression. So pause the video now, head onto YouTube, read it out loud, and we'll see you in just a moment. Right, so our next task, this involves you opening up the text on the Monday Reading Activity PDF. Once again, I'm going to ask you to pause the video so you can read through these texts. We have left a handy little box at the bottom, so for any words you're not sure of, we've given you a definition of that as well. So please read through that now. Right, so as it is a Monday and it is our reading comprehension, we are going to be answering questions on the text you have just looked at. We're going to start with Winston Churchill. So here are your first two questions you're going to be answering. Number one, what phrase is repeated most in this speech? And linking on to number one, why does he use repetition? So those are your first two questions. Pause the video, we'll discuss them a bit in a minute. Off you go. Right. Moving on, question number two from the Winston Churchill speech. What island is Winston Churchill talking about in his text? Hopefully, most of you know this and you can put the clues together to help you out with this. So give this one a go. And from number two, we move on to number three. So I think it's our last question on the Winston Churchill speech. I want you to tell me, what difficulty does Churchill predict and how does he make it seem like less of a problem? So he's predicting that there's going to be a problem coming up, but how does he make it seem not quite so bad? Now, mention two different ways he makes this seem less of a problem. So you will have to scour through that text, but there are clues and you'll find little hints to help you with the answer in that. And just to confirm my last point, we're on number four with Winston Churchill there as well. This is your final question on the Winston Churchill speech. Who do you think Winston Churchill was speaking to in this speech and why? So think about all the pieces in that speech there as well. Think about why he was addressing a certain group of people and why he was doing that. So that's your final question on the Winston Churchill speech. Off you go. And finally, I've got one right. We are now moving on to the Queen Elizabeth I speech. So the second of your speeches. First question on this, why does Queen Elizabeth I compare her body to a king? Once again, pause the video, look through the text in there. There's not too much to look for and the clues are in there to help you with the answer. Off you go. And moving on to our final set of questions on the Queen Elizabeth speech, starting off with 6A. So what roles or jobs does Queen Elizabeth say she will take on in her speech? And there's a follow-up question to that. Why has she done this? Once again, pause the video, look through the text to help you out because we'll go through the answers very shortly. Right, answer time, year 4. So, with the Winston Churchill speech, our first question was, what phrase is repeated most in this speech? It is, "We shall fight." Why has he used that? Well, it's to emphasise this point. Repetition is all about emphasising, stressing the importance of a certain point you are trying to make. And his is that Britain will not be invaded or defeated. Really passion there to make people feel like Britain is safe. Our second question was, what island is Winston Churchill talking about in this text? Hopefully, you all realise we're talking about our own country, the United Kingdom, Great Britain. We know this because the text tells us he's the Prime Minister of Britain at the very top of it. It's a really important thing for us to be doing year 4. I know sometimes when we're looking at articles, particularly newspapers, we don't look at the bit at the very top of it. It's still part of the text. And it gives us important information, and make sure you're reading the whole text, not just the main body. Our third question was, of course, what difficulty does Winston Churchill predict, and how does he make it seem like less of a problem? Now, I understand this is a slightly harder question, but there were enough clues in the text to help us out with that. Now, he was concerned that the United Kingdom, or UK, might have been taken control of or dominated. That's the word subjugated that was highlighted in bold underneath your text. Now, the way in which he's making it seem like less of a problem is that the Empire and the Empire, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle. So there was help there, and there were soldiers there to help us. And of course, the New World steps forth to the rescue. By that, he means his allies, other countries, were there to support Great Britain. So he's trying to make us feel like we were not alone, we had support, and we were heavily guarded. So he's trying to make us feel safe by using those techniques. Our fourth question on the Winston Churchill, and our final question on the Winston Churchill one, was all about who do you think he was speaking to in this one? Hopefully you answered the British public, because he was trying to raise spirits and encourage people to join the fight. So this was during the Second World War. You know, lots of things were happening that weren't too nice at that particular point. He was there to make sure that people in Britain knew there was a leader, and he was trying to make sure people were feeling better in themselves and ready themselves for fight. Coming over to another famous British leader, Queen Elizabeth I. Our fifth question, why does she compare her body to a king? And it's to show that despite the fact that she's a woman, because unfortunately back in those days, being a woman was seen as some reason as being a lesser role and somehow weaker, that she had all the qualities of a powerful leader. Thankfully, these days, we have realised that gender does not make a difference when it comes to leaders. But unfortunately, back then, queens were seen as weak, kings were seen as strong. So she compared her body to a king to say, you know what, despite all this, I'm going to lead and just be as powerful as any man. And then our final questions. What roles does Queen Elizabeth say she'll take on? General, judge, and rewarder. She's doing this to show that she is supporting her people by being involved in a number of roles. I know when you're a queen, not personally, but I know from our current monarch, that sometimes they seem quite distant and far away. And at times of need, it's important for them to feel like they are part of the country and take on important roles. So that is why she has done that. Well done for keeping with us today. Well done for answering those questions. I know some of them were hard, but it will serve you good moving forward. Have a nice day, year 4.